You are sitting alone in your room, scrolling past the quiet glow of another person's photo on your phone, wondering why it all feels so familiar. Another breakup, another fight, another promise you made to yourself that you would never end up here again. Yet here you are, the same arguments, the same fears, the same pattern. Carl Jung, seated across from you in the quiet of your mind, would watch this scene without flinching. He would see the despair behind your eyes, and he would tell you, softly but firmly, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. But what does that actually mean for you? Jung's notion of the shadow, the hidden part of yourself that you deny, ignore, or project onto others, becomes the silent architect of your relationships. You see, when you were young, you learned what love was supposed to feel like. You learned what you had to do to keep love, or avoid rejection, or survive in your family system. These lessons became patterns, and these patterns became your unconscious map for seeking connection. If you are attracted to people who seem unavailable, if you constantly feel you need to fix someone to be worthy, or if you sabotage closeness, when it arrives, Jung would say, this is not merely a series of bad choices. It is the repetition of an unconscious wound seeking integration. Let us consider Jung's own life for a moment, as it mirrors yours in surprising ways. Jung was deeply devoted to his work, to understanding the psyche, but his relationships were stormy. His intense, complicated bond with Sabine Spielreiner, patient who became a lover and later a pioneering psychoanalyst herself, was not only a love story, but a battlefield of projection and transference. Jung saw parts of himself in Sabine that he could not yet own. Her passion, her rage, her yearning for spiritual and sexual unity, all mirrored the parts of himself he was struggling to reconcile. You, too, may find yourself drawn to people who reflect back to you the parts you have buried, your anger, your neediness, your fear of abandonment, your longing to be chosen without condition. You see their flaws, and you try to fix them, not realizing you are trying to fix yourself through them. You fear their rejection, not realizing it is your own self-rejection that cuts deepest. The shadow is not simply your darkness. It is everything you refuse to acknowledge, including your strength, your desires, and your potential for self-sabotage. In relationships, your shadow appears in the way you argue, the way you withdraw, the way you cling, or the way you numb yourself. It appears in your jealousies, your silent resentments, your tendency to choose partners who make you feel small. Jung would tell you that your repetition compulsion, this unconscious drive to recreate the same relationship dynamics, comes from a deeper need to finally see, feel, and integrate what you have ignored within. Each partner you choose, each argument you fall into, each heartbreak you endure is an invitation to consciousness. When you fight with your partner about being ignored, it may be the echo of a childhood where you were not seen. When you find yourself rescuing partners who will not take responsibility for their lives, it may be your unconscious need to feel needed so that you do not feel worthless. When you flee from partners who love you, it may be the part of you that fears love will suffocate you, as love once felt in your family. To see this is painful, but Jung believed that facing this pain is the beginning of true freedom. He described a process called individuation, the lifelong journey of integrating the unconscious with the conscious so that you can become whole. In your relationships, individuation means you begin to see your partner not as a savior, not as an enemy, but as a mirror reflecting your inner world. Jung's own breakdowns in relationship were part of his individuation. His conflicts with Freud, his affairs, his struggles within his marriage all forced him to confront his own shadow. For you, the breakdown of another relationship can either be another wound you run from, or it can become the mirror you finally dare to look into. May wonder, how can I begin to break these patterns? Jung would answer, by seeing them clearly, by feeling the emotions you have buried, by exploring your dreams, your fantasies, your projections. Each time you feel that familiar rage, panic, or despair in a relationship, pause and ask, what part of me is speaking right now? Where have I felt this before? What am I trying to protect myself from? Dreams are the royal road to the unconscious, Jung believed, and often, your dreams will reveal the shadow you are hiding. You may dream of your partner abandoning you, or of yourself being lost, or of storms and floods overtaking your home. These are not random images. They are messages from your unconscious, calling you to notice the fear of abandonment, the feeling of being out of control, the chaos within. That needs your attention. Another way to uncover your patterns is to notice your projections. Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." If your partner's neediness drives you mad, it may be the part of you that feels ashamed of your own needs. If your partner's independence terrifies you, it may be the part of you that fears your own autonomy. To truly break free from these patterns, you must take back your projections and own your shadow. This is not a one-time realization, but a continuous practice of reflection, honesty, and self-compassion. There is also the question of anima and animus, Jung's concepts for the inner feminine and inner masculine energies within you, regardless of your gender. If you do not integrate these energies, you will seek them in your partners unconsciously. You will project your unwound feminine onto women, or your unwound masculine onto men, and you will believe that they complete you. This is why relationships often begin with an ecstatic feeling of wholeness. "I have found my other half," only to descend into conflict when the projections collapse. For Jung, the goal was not to eliminate desire or need in relationships, but to purify it by removing the unconscious projections, so that you can see your partner as they truly are, and love from a place of consciousness rather than compulsion. This journey is not easy. It requires the courage to sit with discomfort, to examine your wounds, to see your own part in the patterns you despise. But it is the path to freedom, to relationships that are not reenactments of childhood pain, but expressions of your conscious, integrated self. That as you sit in your quiet room, phone still in your hand, scrolling past the faces of people you have loved and lost, consider this: what if every pattern you repeat is your unconscious trying to heal itself through repetition, trying to bring what is hidden into the light? What if each heartbreak is an opportunity, not for self-blame, but for self-understanding? Jung would not promise you that you will never experience pain again in love, but he would promise you that your pain can become meaningful, that your patterns can become your teachers, that your shadow can become your ally. He would promise you that the path of individuation, though long and difficult, leads you to a place where you are no longer controlled by the patterns you do not see. You will find yourself again in love, and again in pain, but each time you will have the choice to ask, "What is this teaching me about myself?" Each time, you will have the choice to step out of unconscious repetition and into conscious relationship. You might ask yourself, "How will I know when I have integrated my shadow enough to stop repeating these patterns?" Jung would smile quietly, reminding you that the journey is lifelong. But with each step, the patterns lose their grip, the projections dissolve, and you move closer to true connection, both with yourself and with another. And so you sit there, in the quiet, considering your next step, holding the question close: what part of me is choosing these patterns, and what part of me is ready to change? You may not remember every dream you have, but your dreams remember you. Each night, when you close your eyes, the images you push away during the day return, uninvited but persistent. You might see yourself running after someone who will not stop, standing at the edge of a cliff, or arguing with a shadowy figure whose face you cannot see. These dreams, strange and uncomfortable, are not random. In Jung's view, they are the language of your unconscious, a coded message about the patterns you live out while awake. Carl Jung spent years analyzing his own dreams, recording them meticulously in his journals, and using them as guides for understanding his conflicts and desires. He believed that what you refuse to see in your waking life will appear in your dreams in symbolic form. You might dream of a storm tearing apart your house, perhaps the symbol of a conflict in your relationship that you are trying to suppress. You might dream of being lost in a dark forest, reflecting the confusion you feel each time you repeat the same fight with your partner. These dreams are not punishments, but invitations to see what is asking to be healed. When you keep repeating the same relationship patterns, your dreams may reveal the underlying wounds driving them. Perhaps you dream of a partner ignoring you, and you wake up angry at them, only to find they have done nothing wrong. Jung would encourage you to ask, "What part of me feels unseen? Where did this feeling begin?" This is how you begin to take back your projections. You stop blaming your partner for the emotions that arise within you, and instead investigate their origin. This does not mean you should tolerate poor behavior or neglect in a relationship, but it means you can separate what is yours from what is theirs. This is the beginning of conscious relating, the anima and animus in your relationships. There is another dance occurring beneath the surface. Jung called it the anima and animus, the inner feminine and inner masculine within every psyche, regardless of your biological sex. For Jung, the anima represents the unconscious feminine aspects within a man, while the animus represents the unconscious masculine aspects within a woman. If these inner figures are unintegrated, they are projected outward onto partners, leading to intense attractions and inevitable conflicts. You may feel drawn to someone who seems to complete you, as if they embody everything you believe you lack. This feeling of instant connection, of overwhelming desire, is often the anima or animus projection in motion. You see in them what you have not integrated within yourself. For example, a man who has denied his sensitivity and emotionality may project his anima onto a woman who appears nurturing, mysterious, or deeply emotional. He becomes fascinated with her, believing she holds the key to a part of himself he has never explored. Yet, over time, the very traits that attracted him may begin to irritate or scare him, and conflict arises. A woman who has denied her assertiveness and rationality may project her animus onto a man who appears strong, decisive, and intellectually commanding. She may feel drawn to him, feeling he provides a grounding force she cannot find in herself. But over time, she may find his dominance stifling, leading to resentment and power struggles. Jung's insight was that these projections are not problems to be avoided but signals for growth. The goal is not to find the perfect partner who fulfills these unconscious needs, but to integrate these energies within yourself, reducing the intensity of your projections so you can see your partner more clearly and relate from wholeness rather than need. Ask yourself, what qualities am I consistently drawn to in others? What qualities in my partners trigger anger or fear in me? Are these qualities ones I have rejected within myself? In noticing these patterns, you begin the work of withdrawal of projections, which Jung saw as crucial for individuation and the transformation of relationships. Emotional reactions as teachers. Imagine the last argument you had with someone you love. The anger, the hurt, the disappointment. Each of these emotions is a guide pointing inward. Jung would tell you that these intense reactions are rarely about the present moment alone. They are echoes of unhealed wounds. When you feel abandoned in a relationship, pause and ask, where have I felt this before? You may find yourself remembering a parent who was emotionally unavailable, a caretaker who left you feeling unseen, or an early betrayal that taught you love and pain are inseparable. Jung believed that by observing your emotional reactions with curiosity rather than judgment, you begin to see the invisible threads linking your past to your present. This allows you to respond rather than react in your relationships. If your partner triggers a fear of abandonment, rather than blaming them, you might acknowledge, this fear feels old, it is mine to understand. If your partner's behavior triggers rage, you might explore what boundary you are failing to uphold within yourself, rather than demanding they change for your comfort. This does not mean you tolerate mistreatment, but it means you become responsible for your emotional world. A key step in breaking unconscious repetition. Jung's personal struggles and breakthroughs. Carl Jung himself was not immune to relationship struggles. His split with Freud was not only an intellectual divergence but a deeply emotional rupture. Jung projected onto Freud a father figure, and when their visions of psychology could not align, the split was devastating for Jung, leading him into a period of deep introspection and near psychosis. During this confrontation with the unconscious, Jung withdrew from social life, diving into his dreams and visions, recording them in what became known as the Red Book. He allowed himself to experience the chaotic images of his psyche without rejecting them. Through this process, Jung encountered his own shadow, anima, and the archetypes that would form the foundation of his work. This period was transformative for Jung. It allowed him to integrate parts of himself he had rejected and to emerge with a deeper understanding of the psyche. It was through embracing his inner chaos that Jung found clarity, illustrating that the path to healing patterns in relationships is not avoidance but courageous confrontation with what lies beneath. Practical steps toward conscious relationships. Jung would advise you not to seek a perfect partner, but to seek self. Here are practices inspired by Jung's methods to help you break your relationship patterns. Dream journaling each morning. Write down your dreams, even fragments. Over time, patterns will emerge, revealing your hidden fears and desires. Active imagination. Jung developed this technique to dialogue with unconscious figures. Sit quietly, visualize the person or emotion troubling you, and allow a conversation to unfold. This can reveal insights about your projections and wounds. Shadow work. Notice what you judge harshly in others. Write these traits down and reflect on how they may exist within you. This is the beginning of owning your shadow. Relationship reflection. After conflicts, journal what triggered you. Ask yourself, what is the oldest memory I have of feeling this way? Trace the emotion back to its origin, separating it from your current partner. Integrating animus. If you are consistently drawn to partners who embody certain traits, explore how you can cultivate these traits within yourself. If you admire your partner's decisiveness, where can you practice your own decisiveness? If you are drawn to your partner's emotional depth, where can you allow yourself to feel more deeply? Therapeutic support. Jung believed analysis was a powerful tool for individuation. Working with a Jungian therapist can help you uncover and integrate unconscious patterns. The ongoing process. Jung would remind you that this is not a quick fix, but a lifelong process of growth. Each relationship, each conflict, each heartbreak is an opportunity to bring consciousness to what has remained hidden. When you notice yourself repeating the same pattern, do not condemn yourself. Instead, pause and reflect. What part of me is seeking healing? What am I trying to learn through this repetition? How can I respond from consciousness rather than react from compulsion? As you continue this work, you will find your relationships shifting. You will still experience conflict, but it will become an opportunity for growth rather than a reenactment of old pain. You will begin to attract partners who meet you at the level of your consciousness rather than the level of your wounds. You will still feel fear, anger, and longing, but you will hold these emotions with curiosity rather than blame. You will learn to love with openness while maintaining your individuality, to be in relationship without losing yourself. This is the path Jung envisioned for those willing to take the journey inward. Relationships that are not prisons of unconscious repetition but crucibles of transformation and self-realization. So you sit, once again, in your quiet room, considering your relationships, your patterns, and your desires. You are not seeking perfection in others, but wholeness within yourself. You are no longer running from your patterns, but learning from them. As you breathe, reflect on this. What would it mean to love without the chains of my past? Who would I become if I stopped living the same story on repeat? You have come this far. You have noticed your patterns, explored your dreams, and peered into the hidden parts of yourself that quietly shape your relationships. Yet now you may be wondering, what does it actually mean to transform these patterns? What does it look like to live in conscious relationship? Carl Jung's idea of individuation is often misunderstood as a purely internal journey, disconnected from others. In truth, individuation does not isolate you. It frees you to engage in deeper, more authentic relationships. It allows you to love others without using them as screens for your projections, to stay connected without losing yourself, and to hold the tension between intimacy and independence without collapsing into fear. Jung said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." In unconscious relationships, this transformation often feels like chaos, explosive fights, repeated abandonment, but in conscious relationships, transformation becomes alchemical, creating growth rather than destruction. Love is a crucible for individuation. You may still find yourself drawn to partners who reflect your shadow or animus qualities, but rather than seeking them to complete you, you recognize them as mirrors and teachers. You notice your attractions, your fears, your impulses, and instead of being swept away by them, you observe them with curiosity. Imagine you meet someone who embodies a fiery independence, and you feel both attracted and intimidated. Instead of clinging to them to feel whole, or pushing them away out of fear, you can explore what their independence awakens within you. Does it reflect your fear of being alone? Does it highlight your own disowned independence? Does it challenge your need for control in relationships? In this way, your partner becomes a participant in your individuation, whether they are conscious of it or not. You no longer use them to avoid your emptiness or to replay unresolved childhood wounds. Instead, you allow the relationship to become a crucible, a container where your unconscious is made conscious, where the raw materials of fear, desire, and longing are refined into self-knowledge and deeper love. This does not mean your relationships become free of conflict. Conflict remains, but it becomes purposeful, a signal for growth rather than a sign of failure. The art of holding. Tension. One of Jung's profound insights was the need to hold the tension of opposites. In relationships, this means you can hold your longing for closeness alongside your need for independence. You can love someone deeply while accepting their differences. You can experience conflict without needing to resolve it instantly or run away. For example, you may want your partner to be more emotionally available while also respecting their autonomy. Instead of demanding they change to soothe your fear, you can explore your fear of being alone while expressing your needs clearly, without blame. This is the art of holding tension, allowing you to grow without collapsing into unconscious patterns. The role of dreams and synchronicities in lovers. You continue your individuation. Your dreams will continue to guide you. You may notice recurring symbols or figures representing aspects of yourself that seek integration. A recurring dream of a locked door may symbolize parts of yourself you are still afraid to open. A recurring dream of the same person may indicate a projection you have yet to reclaim. Jung also spoke of synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that reveal connections between your inner world and outer events. You may find that as you work on your patterns, you encounter people who reflect your progress. You may notice moments of profound connection with your partner that seem to arrive at precisely the right time, guiding you to the next step in your journey. These moments are not magical thinking. They are reminders that your unconscious and conscious lives are intertwined, and that your growth in relationships often aligns with your larger life path. Love without enslavement. Jung was clear. Individuation does not mean becoming so self-sufficient that you no longer need others. It means you enter relationships from a place of wholeness rather than desperation. You are capable of loving fully without losing yourself. You can accept rejection without it destroying your sense of worth. You can remain open to love while respecting your own boundaries. Imagine yourself in a future relationship. You notice jealousy arising but do not act on it impulsively. Instead, you explore what insecurity it reveals within you. You find yourself falling into a familiar pattern of rescuing your partner, but catch yourself and step back, allowing them to take responsibility for their life. You experience a conflict, but use it as an opportunity to express your needs clearly and listen to your partner's perspective, rather than replaying old accusations. This is love without enslavement. It is love rooted in consciousness, where you and your partner can grow together, supporting each other's individuation while enjoying the beauty of connection. Transforming your narrative. By understanding your patterns and working with them, you transform your narrative from victimhood, "Why does this always happen to me?" to empowerment, "What is this experience teaching me about myself?" You shift from blame to curiosity, from fear to presence. You realize that each person who enters your life plays a role in your growth. Those who challenge you, those who hurt you, those who love you, all become part of your individuation. You no longer see repeated patterns as failures, but as opportunities to practice consciousness. This transformation is gradual, and you will slip back into old patterns at times. Jung would remind you to approach yourself with compassion rather than judgment, understanding that the journey toward wholeness is lifelong. Jung's legacy for your relationships. Carl Jung's work on the shadow, projections, anima, animus, and individuation offers you a path to end the cycle of unconscious repetition in relationships. His life showed that embracing the complexity of your inner world is not a retreat from life, but a deeper engagement with it. You do not have to remain stuck in the same stories, the same heartbreaks, or the same disappointments. By bringing consciousness to your patterns, you free yourself to love fully, to experience intimacy without enmeshment, and to remain whole within connection. The shadow you once feared becomes an ally, revealing what you truly need and desire. The projections you once clung to dissolve, allowing you to see others clearly. The patterns that once imprisoned you become your teachers, guiding you toward deeper awareness. As you sit now, reflecting on your relationships, consider, what would it look like to enter your next relationship with your eyes open, your heart aware, and your shadow acknowledged? Who would you become if you allowed yourself to love without using another as a bandage for your wounds? What kind of love is possible when you no longer repeat your patterns but learn from them? You stand at the edge of opportunity, a new project, a promising relationship, a breakthrough you have worked hard to achieve. You feel the pull towards something greater, something closer to your potential. Yet, just as you are about to step forward, a hesitation creeps in. You delay the call, skip the meeting, miss the deadline, say something that sparks unnecessary conflict. You tell yourself it's bad timing, you're tired, you're not ready yet. It happens again and again. You may call it bad luck, poor discipline, or even laziness. But Carl Jung would invite you to consider a deeper, more uncomfortable possibility. You are sabotaging your success because part of you is terrified of it. This part, hidden in the corners of your unconscious, is what Jung called the shadow. It is the unacknowledged, rejected, and repressed aspects of your psyche, containing not only your perceived flaws, but also your unclaimed strengths and potential. And it is often this shadow that becomes the hidden saboteur of your progress. What is the shadow? To understand why you keep sabotaging yourself, you need to understand what the shadow is and how it operates. The shadow is everything you believe you should not be, everything you were told was unacceptable, everything you rejected to maintain belonging and safety. If you were raised in a family where anger was punished, your anger became part of your shadow. If your independence was criticized, your assertiveness was buried. If your creativity was dismissed, your boldness was silenced. But the shadow does not disappear simply because you ignore it. It festers in the dark, growing stronger as it is denied, influencing your choices and behaviors in subtle yet powerful ways. Jung observed that the shadow is not solely composed of what is bad or wrong, but also holds the parts of ourselves that are vibrant, strong, and alive. It holds your assertiveness, your sexuality, your ambition, your brilliance, qualities that may have threatened the structures you grew up in, leading you to bury them for safety. When these shadow elements are unacknowledged, they find their way into your life through sabotage, projection, and repetition of patterns that keep you small, stuck, and unfulfilled. The shadow, as saboteur. Imagine you have worked for months on a project, nearing completion, and suddenly you find yourself procrastinating. You convince yourself you need more research, you need another course, you need to wait until you feel ready. You may even get sick or create conflicts that divert your energy away from your goal. This is not random. Your shadow, holding beliefs like "I am not good enough," "I do not deserve success," or "if I succeed, I will lose love," will quietly undermine your progress to keep you aligned with your old self-concept. In your shadow, success might represent danger because it threatens the identity you have constructed to stay safe. If you fear judgment, your shadow may sabotage your progress to protect you from visibility. If you fear abandonment, your shadow may block your success to prevent the perceived loss of connection with those who may envy or reject you if you grow. If you hold an unconscious belief that struggle is noble and comfort is weakness, your shadow will lead you back to struggle. Jung emphasized that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will control your life, and you will call it fate. Each moment you sabotage your success, the shadow is at work, fulfilling its silent contract with your old identity. Jung's confrontation with his own shadow. To understand this in your life, consider how Jung himself wrestled with his shadow. In 1913, after his break with Freud, Jung entered a period of intense inner turmoil. He experienced disturbing visions, dreams of blood and floods engulfing Europe, and encounters with figures like Philemon, an archetypal wise old man who became a guide within his psyche. Rather than fleeing these visions, Jung chose to engage with them, recording them meticulously in what became the Red Book. Through this inner journey, Jung confronted the parts of himself he had ignored: his capacity for irrationality, his spiritual longing, his aggression, his fear. He allowed himself to feel and explore these energies consciously, reducing their unconscious grip on his actions. It was through this process that Jung emerged with clarity, birthing concepts like the shadow, individuation, and archetypes that would shape his life's work. His willingness to face his inner chaos allowed him to transform what could have been a lifelong sabotage into the foundation of his purpose. Jung's example teaches you that your shadow is not an enemy to destroy, but a part of yourself to acknowledge, explore, and integrate. How the shadow manifests in your life. Consider how the shadow may manifest in your day-to-day actions. Perfectionism. You set impossibly high standards for yourself, ensuring you never complete what you start, which protects you from the vulnerability of putting your work into the world. Procrastination. You delay action under the illusion of preparation, protecting yourself from potential failure or rejection. Self-doubt. You downplay your abilities, avoiding opportunities that would showcase your talents. Conflict creation. You start arguments or create drama when things are going well, destabilizing your progress. Overcommitting. You take on too many tasks, leaving yourself exhausted and unable to focus on what matters. Addictive distractions. You numb yourself with social media, food, substances, or entertainment to avoid the discomfort of growth. These behaviors often appear logical on the surface. I just need more time. I want it to be perfect. I'm too busy right now. But they are often driven by the shadows, fear of change and expansion. The gifts within the shadow. Jung believed the shadow also holds your gold, the hidden strengths, desires, and capacities you have disowned. Your procrastination may hide a fear of your own brilliance. Your perfectionism may hide your desire for excellence and impact. Your conflict patterns may hide your unexpressed boundaries and needs. By exploring these patterns without shame, you begin to reclaim the parts of yourself that are necessary for your growth. Questions for reflection. As you consider your life, ask yourself, where in my life am I sabotaging my progress? What am I afraid will happen if I succeed? What beliefs about myself or the world are being challenged by my potential for growth? What emotions arise when I move closer to my goals? What patterns do I repeat when I get close to success? These questions open the door to understanding your shadow's role in your sabotage patterns. Embracing the shadow consciously. Jung did not advocate for eliminating the shadow, but for integrating it into consciousness. This means acknowledging your fears and beliefs without judgment, exploring your dreams and emotional reactions as guides to your hidden conflicts, practicing active imagination to dialogue with your inner saboteur and understand its motivations, recognizing the traits you envy or criticize in others as parts of yourself needing integration, taking small, conscious actions despite fear, teaching your shadow that growth is safe. You do not need to eradicate fear to move forward. You need to befriend your fear, allowing it to inform you without controlling you. As you sit in the quiet, reflecting on your patterns of sabotage, consider this. What if the parts of you that sabotage your success are simply parts that need your acceptance and understanding? What if your path to growth requires you to turn toward your fear rather than away from it? You now understand that your sabotage is not merely a flaw in discipline or willpower, but a symptom of the unconscious patterns you carry, patterns shaped by the shadow you have not yet faced. This is not a reason for shame. It is an invitation to profound transformation. Carl Jung did not believe you could simply think your way out of your shadow. You must enter a relationship with it, listening, observing, and integrating these disowned parts so they no longer act against your conscious intentions. In doing so, you begin to reclaim the energy tied up in sabotage, using it instead to fuel your growth. Here is how you can begin working with your shadow in practical Jungian ways. Point 1. Dream analysis. The royal road to the unconscious. Dreams are nightly conversations with your unconscious. Jung spent decades recording, drawing, and reflecting on his dreams, using them to map his shadow and guide his actions consciously. When you are sabotaging your progress, your dreams often reveal the fears you cannot articulate while awake, the emotions you deny while striving for your goals, the disowned parts of yourself demanding attention. Practical method. Keep a dream journal beside your bed. Immediately upon waking, write down every detail you can remember, even fragments or feelings. Note recurring symbols, storms, locked doors, lost objects, failing exams, and the emotions within them. Instead of literal interpretation, ask, what part of me is this dream expressing? What emotion is seeking to be felt? How does this connect to my current struggle with progress? Example, if you dream of missing a train repeatedly, it may reflect your fear of missing opportunities, or deeper, your fear of what success might bring if you were to catch the train. Rather than dismissing the dream, sit with the fear it represents, allowing yourself to feel it consciously. To active imagination. Dialogue with your sabotactive imagination is one of Jung's core techniques to access and integrate the shadow. It involves entering a meditative state and consciously engaging with figures or emotions that arise from your unconscious. When you notice yourself sabotaging, close your eyes, breathe, and visualize your saboteur as a character. What does it look like? What is its posture, expression, energy? What does it want from you? Why does it block you from moving forward? You might find your saboteur appears as a fearful child who believes success will lead to abandonment, a stern inner critic insisting you are not ready, a chaotic trickster figure creating distractions to keep you safe in your comfort zone. Ask it questions. Why are you afraid of success? What are you protecting me from? What do you need from me to feel safe while I grow? You are not trying to defeat this part of yourself, but to understand it. Often, you will discover that your saboteur is trying to protect you from perceived danger, fear of failure, fear of exposure, fear of change. By acknowledging and dialoguing with this figure, its hold on you softens, and its protective energy can transform into supportive energy. 3. Projection withdrawal. Seeing yourself clearly. Jung taught that what irritates or fascinates you in others is often a projection of your shadow or disowned potential. When sabotaging, you may find yourself criticizing successful people as arrogant or lucky, feeling resentful toward those who take bold action, feeling inferior to those living freely. These reactions reveal your unwound parts, your fear of being seen, your denied desire for freedom and boldness, your hidden envy, which points to desires you are afraid to claim. Practice. Notice who triggers strong emotional reactions in you, positively or negatively. Ask, what trait in this person do I deny in myself? How am I also capable of embodying this trait? What fear prevents me from claiming this part of myself? By withdrawing projections, you reclaim parts of your energy and potential that you unconsciously give away. For shadow journaling. Trace your patterns. Set aside quiet time to write about the last time you sabotaged your progress, the thoughts and emotions that were present, the fears or beliefs that arose, the deeper stories behind these beliefs. For example, I will fail like I did before. Success will isolate me. If I grow, I will be rejected. Bring compassion to these stories. They are old strategies meant to keep you safe, not evidence of your inadequacy. End each entry with, what would it look like to move forward despite this fear? What small action can I take to honor my growth? 5. Mindful action. Build evidence against the fearing. Emphasized that insight alone is insufficient. You must take action to integrate your shadow and transform your patterns. Choose small, consistent actions aligned with your goals. If you fear being visible, post a small piece of your work online. If you fear rejection, send one pitch or application. If you fear failure, start a project without demanding perfection. Each action is a message to your shadow that you are safe to expand. The shadow calms not through force but through consistent evidence that growth does not destroy. U6 Therapeutic support. Safe containers for exploration. Jung believed analysis was invaluable in individuation. Working with a Jungian analyst or depth-oriented therapist can help you identify unconscious patterns, create a safe space to explore the fears behind sabotage, guide you in active imagination and dream interpretation. If formal therapy is not accessible, find supportive spaces, trusted friends, reflective journaling, or a creative practice. You can process what arises. A case reflection. Jung and Sabina Spielrento understand the practical unfolding of shadow work. Consider Jung's relationship with Sabina Spielrein, one of his early patients who became a psychoanalyst herself. Their emotional and intellectual entanglement forced Jung to confront his shadow, his repressed desires, his fears of moral failure, and his projections. Their connection was intense and turbulent, but it was also transformative. It forced Jung to reckon with his inner conflicts and contributed to the development of his concepts of transference, the shadow, and the unconscious. Your conflicts with your saboteur are similar. A tension between who you are and who you fear becoming, between your comfort zone and your potential. Facing this tension consciously is the essence of growth. Embracing the shadow as ally. Your sabotage patterns are not your enemy. They are your shadow's language, telling you you are afraid of being seen, you fear rejection, you do not yet trust yourself to handle change. Your task is to listen, understand, and respond with conscious action, not to wage war against yourself. Jung wrote, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The darkness in your sabotage is not evil, it is unintegrated potential, waiting for your attention. Questions for continued reflection as you move forward. Reflect on, what small risks can I take today that align with my growth? What dreams have been recurring, and what do they reveal about my fears of success? What does my saboteur want to protect me from? How can I assure it I am safe while I grow? How can I honor my longing for expansion while respecting my need for stability? You have walked through the corridors of your unconscious, observing your sabotage not as weakness, but as a signpost from your shadow, inviting you to growth. You have seen how your dreams, projections, and recurring conflicts reflect your unacknowledged fears. Now you stand on the threshold of transformation. How do you live your potential fully? free from the compulsion to sabotage your own progress. Jung would remind you, integration is not an event. It is a continuous relationship with your inner world, a commitment to self-awareness that expands your capacity for conscious success without fear or fragmentation. The integrated shadow. Wholeness over perfection. Many believe that success requires perfection, eliminating flaws, never making mistakes, and suppressing fear. Jung's work reveals the opposite. True success requires wholeness, where every part of you, including your fears and imperfections, is acknowledged and integrated. The integrated shadow does not vanish, it transforms. Your fear of failure becomes caution that tempers reckless decisions. Your perfectionism becomes a desire for excellence balanced by action. Your fear of visibility becomes humility that grounds your success. Instead of fighting your shadow, you listen to it. It becomes a trusted advisor, reminding you to rest when you are pushing too hard, to pause when your ego is inflating, and to celebrate when you are growing. This shift from suppression to integration creates inner coherence, aligning your conscious goals with your unconscious needs, removing the internal conflicts that drive sabotage. The role of purpose in preventing sabotage. When your actions align with your authentic purpose, your shadow has less reason to intervene destructively. Ask yourself, why do I want this success? Does this goal align with who I am, or is it driven by external validation? What deeper purpose will this success serve in my life and for others? Jung's individuation process is about becoming who you truly are, not who you think you should be to earn approval or worth. When your goals are inauthentic, your shadow will sabotage them, attempting to steer you back toward alignment with your true self. When your goals express your deeper values, your inner conflicts reduce, and your energy becomes focused, creating momentum toward your potential. Embracing fear as a companion. Many believe they must eradicate fear to progress. Jung taught that fear often contains information your conscious mind does not yet understand. When you move toward a goal and fear arises, ask, what is this fear trying to protect me from? Is this fear pointing to a real risk, or is it tied to past experiences? How can I proceed in a way that acknowledges this fear while still moving forward? Instead of using fear as a reason to stop, you learn to proceed with awareness, respecting your limitations while gently expanding them. This builds trust within yourself, reducing the need for sabotage as a form of protection. Rituals of conscious expansion. To solidify your integration, create rituals that remind you of your commitment to conscious growth. Daily reflection. Each day, reflect on moments you felt fear, procrastination, or self-doubt. Ask what these moments revealed about your shadow. Weekly alignment check. Once a week, review your goals and ask if they still align with your values and purpose. Active imagination sessions. Set aside time to dialogue with your saboteur, asking what it needs as you continue to grow. Dream integration. Review your dreams for patterns, writing down any insights they reveal about your current challenges. These rituals keep you connected to your unconscious while living consciously, reducing the power of sabotage to derail your progress. Shadow integration in relationships and work. As you grow, you will notice your sabotage patterns often appear most strongly in relationships and meaningful work areas that matter deeply to your sense of identity. In relationships, you may withdraw to avoid vulnerability. You may start conflicts when intimacy increases. You may choose partners who align with your shadow, keeping you from fully expanding. In work, you may procrastinate on launching your creations. You may downplay your abilities to avoid judgment. You may seek external validation while fearing criticism. In both, integration looks like noticing these patterns without judgment, bringing awareness to your fears while continuing to engage, allowing yourself to be seen, make mistakes, and learn without collapsing into shame or avoidance. This is how individuation unfolds in daily life. Each action becomes an opportunity to practice conscious living. The reward of shadow work, freedom. To create the energy you once spent sabotaging yourself becomes available for creativity, connection, and contribution. The tension you once felt about moving forward softens as you learn to trust yourself. Your capacity to hold discomfort grows, allowing you to share your work publicly without being paralyzed by fear. Build relationships where you can express your truth while respecting others. Pursue ambitions without self-destruction when challenges arise. Jung saw this as a spiritual task, not merely psychological. By integrating your shadow, you contribute not only to your life, but to the collective. offering your authentic gifts to a world in need of conscious individuals. Jung's final reminder: the lifelong process. Even as you integrate parts of your shadow, new layers will emerge. Growth brings new challenges, and each new stage of your life may awaken hidden fears. Jung would remind you, I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become. You are not defined by your sabotage, you are defined by your willingness to see it, learn from it, and transform through it. Individuation is not a destination, it is a lifelong process of becoming. Each moment of awareness, each small act of courage, each choice to align your actions with your purpose brings you closer to your wholeness. Closing. Reflection. Take a breath. Sit quietly and ask yourself, what part of me have I been running from? In my pursuit of success, what am I afraid might happen if I allow myself to grow fully? What small act can I take today to honor my potential without fear? Your sabotage has been a guide, pointing to the places within you that need your attention, compassion, and courage. Now, you have the tools to listen, integrate, and act with intention. You can live your potential fully without abandoning yourself. You can grow without fear controlling your path. You can succeed while staying true to your essence. This is the promise of shadow work: freedom to live as your whole self, consciously creating a life aligned with your deepest purpose.